Good evening. This is Orson Welles, bringing you another radio show for Lady Esther. Right to begin with, I'd like to point out that here's an interesting fact. These few moments, the ones that are ticking off as I speak to you now, are the really crucial ones in our radio programs. The reason is fairly obvious. It's in these first few seconds that we must grasp your interest and create a favorable impression. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to use this crucial time for a crucial reminder. Briefly, here it is. Don't forget to buy defense bonds and stamps this week, and every week. Each dollar, each dime, is a weapon against the forces of fascist barbarism and intolerance. And now about this program. Tonight's story is in its own right a weapon against intolerance, besides which it's one of the finest things we've ever found for radio. No other broadcast of the Mercuries has been called for again by so many listeners. It's titled, My Little Boy. My little boy is beginning to live. Carefully, stumbling now and then on his little knock-kneed legs. He makes his way through the world, looks at everything that there is to look at, and bites at every apple, both those which are his due and those which are forbidden him. He's not a pretty child, but he's charming. His face can light up suddenly and become radiant. He can look at you with quite cold eyes. He has a strong intuition, and he is incorruptible. He has never yet bartered a kiss for candy. He has bad habits, too. He's apt, for instance, suddenly and without the slightest reason, to go up to people whom he meets in the street and hit them with his little stick. What's in his mind when he does so, I don't know. As long as he doesn't hit me, it remains a matter between himself and the people concerned. He has an odd trick of seizing some word in a grown-up conversation, storing it up for a while, and then asking me for an explanation.
Father?
Yes?
What is life?
I give him a tap on his little stomach and roll him over on the carpet and conceal my emotion under a mighty tussle. Later, when we're sitting together, breathless and tired, I give him his answer. Life is delightful, my little boy. Don't be afraid of it. My little boy comes into my room and tells me with a very long face that John is dead. And we put all nonsense aside and hurry away to the train to go where John is. For John is the biggest dog that has lived in some time. When we get there, we hear that John is already buried. We look at each other in dismay to think how quickly that happens. We go to the grave, which is in the grounds of a factory, where the tall chimneys stand. We sit down and can't understand it. We tell each other all the stories that we remember of John's wonderful size and strength. As each story is told, the whole thing becomes only more awful and obscure. At last we go home by train. Besides us, there's a kind old gentleman in the compartment who liked to make friends with my little boy. The little boy has nothing to talk about to the kind old gentleman. He stands at the window and stares out. His eyes light upon some tall chimneys.
That's where John is buried.
Yes. The landscape flies past. He can think only of that and see only that. Presently, some more chimneys appear.
That's where John is buried.
No, my little friend. That was over there.
You were right, my little boy. Those are John's chimneys. While he's looking out again, I take the old gentleman to the furthest corner of the car. You see, my friends, in years to come, if I live, I hope to explain to the boy the difference between Peterson's factory and Hanson's factory, and if I should die, I'll confidently leave that part of his education to others. Even if he never learns the difference, sir, I'd still be resigned. Today it's a question of other and more important matters. The strongest, the most living thing that little boy knew is dead.
Oh, really? A relation, perhaps?
Yes, John is dead, the dog.
Dog?
Well, it's not because of the dog, don't you understand? It's because of death, which he's seeing for the first time. Death with all its might, its mystery.
Father, when do we die?
When we grow old.
No. Carl has a brother at home in the courtyard. And he's dead, and he was only a little boy.
Then Carl's brother was so good and learned such a lot that he already was fit to go to heaven.
Well, mind you don't become too good. I give my little boy a pat on the stomach, and he laughs and laughs and goes back to the window, where new chimneys rise over John's grave. I take the old gentleman by the shoulders and forbid him strictly to talk to my boy again. I give up trying to make him understand me. I just shake him. He eyes the emergency cord. When we reach the station, he hurries away. I go with my little boy holding his hand through the streets full of live people. In the evening, I sit on the edge of his bed and talk with him about that incomprehensible thing. John, who is dead. John, who is so much alive. So strong. So big. My little boy is given a dime by Mary, the cook, with instructions to go to the baker's and buy some rolls. I stand at my window and see him cross the street in his slow way with bent head, only he goes slower than usual, with his head bent more deeply between his small shoulders. He stands long outside the baker's window where there's a confused heap of all-day suckers and chocolates and peppermint sticks. Then he lifts his hand, opens the door, disappears, and presently returns with a paper bag, eating with all his might. And I, who heaven be praised, have myself been a thief in my time, go all over the house and give my orders. My little boy enters the kitchen.
Put the rolls on the table. You're quite a big boy now that you can buy rolls for Mary.
His face is very long, but he says nothing. He comes quietly into me and sits on the edge of a chair.
Hello.
Hello. You've been over the way at the baker's? What'd you buy at the baker's?
Peppermints.
I had some peppermints this morning. Who gave the money this time?
Mary.
Really? Well, Mary's certainly fond of you. Do you remember the lovely ball she gave you for your birthday?
Father, Mary told me to buy a dime's worth of rolls.
Oh, dear. It's very quiet in the room. My little boy cries bitterly, and I look anxiously before me and stroke his hair. You fooled Mary badly. She wanted those rolls, of course, for our dinner. She thinks they're on the kitchen table, and she goes to look. She won't find them. Mother gave her a dime for rolls. Mary gave you a dime for rolls, and you go and spend it on peppermints. What are you going to do? If only we had a dime, then you could rush across the street and fetch the rolls.
Father, there's a dime on Mother's writing table.
Oh, is there really? Well, I'm afraid that's no use to us, my little boy. That dime belongs to Mother. The other was Mary's. People are so terribly fond of their money and get so angry when you take it away from them. I understand that, for you can buy such an awful lot of things with money. You can get bread and ice cream and toys and clothes and half the things in the world. And it's not so easy to make money. Now, Mary, she has to spend the whole day cleaning rooms and cooking dinner and washing up before she gets her wages. And out of that, she has to buy clothes and shoes. And, she has a little girl and she has to pay for it, Mrs. Olson. She must certainly have saved very cleverly before she managed to buy you that ball for your birthday.
Father, haven't you got a dime?
Well, here's my purse. Look for yourself. There's not a penny in it. Spent the last this morning. We walk up and down. We sit down, get up, and walk about again. We're very gloomy. Well, there might be one hidden away in a drawer somewhere.
Yes.
Only we could find a dime.
Here's one. Hooray!
Hooray!
Father, a dime!
Yes, now hurry. Now you go this way through the door, then run back quickly up the kitchen stairs with the rolls and put them on the table. I'll call Mary so that she doesn't see him and won't tell anybody. He's down the stairs before I've done talking. I run after him. Hey there! Wasn't it a splendid thing we found that dime?
Yes!
And he laughs for happiness, and I laugh too, and his legs go like drumsticks across the baker's. From my window, I see him come back running with red cheeks and glad eyes. he's committed his first crime. He's understood it. He has not the sting of remorse in his soul, nor the black badge of forgiveness on his cap. The mother of my little boy and I sit until late at night talking about money, which seems to us the most difficult matter of all. For our little boy must learn to know the power of money and the glamour of money and the joy of money. He must earn much money and spend much money.
Yet there were 2 people yesterday who killed a man to rob him of $4.37.
My little boy is engaged to be married. She's a big, large-limbed young woman, 3 years his senior. Her name is Gertie, by a misunderstanding, however, which is pardonable at his age and, moreover, quite explained by Gertie's appearance. He calls her Dirty. Little Dirty. By this name, she will be handed down to history.
I wanted a girl for myself.
Quite right, my boy. Either I know very little of mankind, or he's made a fortunate choice. No one is likely to take Dirty from him. Like the gentleman that he is, he at once brings the girl home to us and introduces her.
Father, this is little Dirty. She's my sweetheart. We're going to be married.
That's what people usually do with their sweethearts. Come in, Dirty, and be welcomed by the family.
Wipe your feet, Dirty.
The mother of my little boy doesn't think much of the match.
Why, she's a perfectly dreadful little thing. I've a good mind not to let her in the house.
Do you remember what little use it was when your mother forbade me to the house? We used to meet the most incredible places and kiss each other terribly. I can quite understand that you've forgotten, but you ought to bear it in mind now that your son's beginning to...
My dear.
Besides, I must remind you that it is spring. Dirty is paying us a visit, and my little boy is sitting at her feet. She's buried her finger